Hi all, it's Philosopher Prince here, and today we're doing analysis of Book 3 of Meditations. For those who haven't already, the previous video is an audio book and reading of Book 3 of the Meditations, so have a listen to that, and this will make more sense. And as I said in the last video, that um, these analyses, they're very off the cuff, and I do write down a few sort of jottings as I read it, but as I said, I do find it more natural, more of a natural flow to sort of just speak off the top of my mind. So here we go. And one of the first things that we see written here is that it was written in Carnuntum, which I believe was a Roman legionary fortress, which is now that area is now in Austria, but back then obviously would have been in the Roman Empire. There's a number of themes here, and I'll try to sort of go through each of them, but one of the first things that sort of really comes out to me is the fact that it speaks about the shortness of life. Each breath we take, each day that we live, it's sort of one less. It's moving towards that point. It's all heading in one direction. You can't buy more time. Um, it's not sort of meant to be said in sort of a depressing way, but it's more so to sort of outline the fact that everything we do, there should be a sense of urgency. We are all given an allotted amount of time, some more than others, but we all share the same fate, and it's limited for all of us, so we should definitely make the most of it. And I know that sort of common cliche, live every day like it's your last. I think if we truly thought the day that we have today is our last, it would be a very different situation altogether. But, even just being mindful of the shortness of all these things and, to not delay things, do things today if you can. There's no, common saying I've heard is don't delay tomorrow what you can do today. And it's really all it's about, and not having regrets. It also mentions the fact that even, if a longer period of time is something that we desire, which is not necessarily being argued for here, but even if that is, um, the longer time you have, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to be in the exact same position you are today, if that's what you even want. But I think most people who want long lives from where they are at this point in time, they're usually in good health, usually a good stage of life. They would tend to have, full capacity of their mind and their senses, but as you get older, these things sometimes deteriorate. Um, Even if you do happen and are fortunate enough to have your full mind, you're likely to suffer different ailments, and these are just things that sometimes come with age. And even a long life, it's a longer life, and some people would say a longer life of suffering too. You see all your loved ones move on, pass away. Um, so it's not necessarily something to be desired if that is the case. But it sort of just hammers home the point of, you know, regardless of whether it's long or short, it's limited, and to make the most of things today. Marcus also goes on to speak about um, different beautiful things in life, and how the fact that sometimes the beauty in them is the fact that they're not perfect. He talks about, the baker's bread, how the cracks in a fresh loaf of bread apparently make it look delicious. I didn't really know what that meant. That might have been something more common back then. But he even talks, about, different things, and and I've sort of even thought of this before, in the fact that, um, even from like if you think about trying to be sort of a good person, or um, look good to others, I think, it's our imperfections, it's our things that make us unique, that the reason our family and friends love us. It's not, if you think about what the perfect person is, whatever that is, it's essentially be a robot. And I was talking to someone recently about the fact that I don't think I'd ever want to be flawless, you know. And this is sort of on a little bit of a tangent, but even if if you were perfect, whether looks wise or personality wise, um, I think you'd sort of wonder the people in your life. It'd be easy for them to accept you. Um, I think it's when people accept you for your flaws, it's the real sort of proof that, they are there for you, you know. Um, Marcus again goes on to talk about about death and the fact that, it's something that no matter who you are, whether you're the highest of kings or the lowliest of slaves, and he mentions a few people like Julius Caesar and whatnot, um, sort of includes some ironic things about people who predicted the deaths of others that died themselves, and people who treated others died themselves, which is true. And that's, one of the few things that unites us all. And I think again it's just a reminder to make sure, even in I think certain times of our life, we sometimes feel very good about ourselves, which is good. But ultimately, no matter how high up you get, how well you do, how good you are, how successful you are, it's all the same at the end of the day. So to make sure that you be mindful of the important things in life. Um, Also, there's mention of people that do us harm, aim to do us harm, whether they hate us, whether they do so intentionally or they not, or they don't. Um, Marcus says to not try not to focus on them. As hard as that can be sometimes, I think one of the rule, the 80-20 rule, I think a lot of people in different sort of workspaces can sort of empathize with this, in that it seems that 20% of, if you look at like a client facing role, it's 20% of the clients who take up like 80% of your time, which is very common. And it's, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's the ones that complain, or if you sort of think about sometimes when we stress about things or worry about things, it's always the people that annoy us. We should try to focus more on the positives, on the good people. Also here we talk about, um, trying to be, kind and good at all times. This should flow through in our actions. And also, if you're aiming to be good and not to be deceptive, I think in this day and age, especially, there's a huge fear by a lot of people of, something they say getting taken out of context, or something, one of their secrets going out there. I think especially today with, cameras are everywhere, and there's a big cancel culture out there of, people just canceling others just because they don't like them. They're trying to find dirt on them or whatever. But if you're, kind and good at all times, you don't need to not only stress about these things or stress less about them, but it's not as if your mind's doing one thing, your body another. It's your your actions will, show your true state. Um, I guess, mentions as well the fact that focusing on good can help to ignore the bad around us. If you're only worrying about yourself, trying to be good. And with this ignoring evil, it's not to sort of say, turning a blind eye to bad things. It's always good to stand up for things that are right, but it's more so, the things in life, the things around us that are just impacting our mind state. Sometimes the things that we can't control and can really annoy us, and it's fine to be aggravated by them to a point. But if it's taking over other aspects of your life, there's really no value in it. So try to focus on the good, either the good in whatever evil that is, in inverted commas, or on other goods, yourself, the things in your life, whether it's your family, your job, relationships, things of that nature. Also talks about seeing the good in others. Um, Sometimes it can be hard with particular people, um, but we spoke about in book 2 the fact that even bad people are really only bad because they don't know what good is, or how to do good, or whatnot. So, it's often sort of said there's no really truly evil person. You know, Even some really bad people are good to their pets. Um, So everyone, has some good in them, sometimes about finding it, but if not, it's about, trying to see that good and not necessarily um, being their best friend, but it can sometimes help you relate to them a little bit better. And I think even that empathy sort of shines through and sometimes allows them to treat you better at times. Um, and it mentions about the kinship of men and to try to take the opinions of others if they're, good. If not, then obviously take whatever they say with a grain of salt. It says if they are not, if they are not people in living in as one with nature, sort of is sort of a euphemism for someone who's not good. Um, Marcus also mentions, doing everything with purpose. Don't do anything begrudgingly if you can help it. If you're doing a job that you don't enjoy, then I guess, you know, prefer preferably you find a job that you do. But if not, um, you know, even a job you don't like, there's a purpose for every sort of task you do, and to sort of put every sort of um, purpose behind it not only sort of helps you in your own attitude, but that sort of shines through in the work, gives you chances for not only progression, but if you're wanting to move somewhere else, then that should help you there too. Um, Mentions, how being good and truthful and values like justice are much more valuable than the things that Marcus calls indifference, praise, wealth, pleasure, power. These are things that, it doesn't really take someone too intelligent, too insightful to just crave. Um, it sort of takes someone with a more rational mind to want to be good, to, want to be just, to chase the truth and these sort of things. Um, there's a mention of, these things which can sort of bring in this pull, you know, and if these things make you feel negative, or sometimes they're surrounded by negative energy, and that you might want a you know a sports car because your friend has one. This sort of cause feelings of resentment, envy. Is wanting these things necessarily helping you? Sometimes it can. Sometimes it might make you work harder, but if it makes you feel envious of others, or if you do get these things and it makes you, um, sometimes it stresses you out more. If you get like a nice house or a nice car, you're always, you're stressing whenever you park the car in the street. You don't want it to get scratched. Um, Getting these things is, it can sort of involve a lot of negative energy. So sometimes these things of themselves aren't necessarily beneficial for you. And this sort of flows through into the next part, which talks about the simplicity, um, to live a simple life. Living a simple life is more of a stress-free life. Um, there's arguments, obviously, on both sides of what's more preferable. But, um, and this again sort of goes into the next point, which is the fact that if you look at anything and sort of stripped of its components, what is it? I mean, what's a car? A car is bits of metal with four wheels, and you can get some cars that are worth $1,000 and some that are worth $1 million, but they all essentially get you from A to B in a different manner, of course. But this is sort of what stripping down something completely of, its components, and this sort of goes beyond tangible things. It goes, to even thoughts. Sometimes we have thoughts about people. We might not like someone, and we sort of think, why don't we? Might have had a bad experience with them, and that's one experience, and that's one experience of your life. That's one experience of theirs. Is a grudge really worth holding on to? Probably not. It can be hard to let go. I think thoughts and feelings are very um, complex. You can't always understand them. This even goes to sort of feelings of attraction sometimes. Heard this saying once, it was quite interesting. If you're attracted to someone, you can sort of, just say as a man, you're attracted to a woman, and you can bring 10 other women into the room, and they might be completely, I'm just trying to think how to word this, they might be one might have, better height or better hair or better nose, or whatever the case may be. But if you truly did love that person, none of these others that you bring into the room, should make you sort of lose your attraction to the person you like. And these are things we just can't explain sometimes. It's a feeling, it's an emotion. Um, Worded in this way, though, stripping it bare of its elements, can sort of be seen as a bit. It depends what you're talking about, essentially, but I think it can also be used to cope with certain things, um, different feelings of either anger, heartbreak, um, lust, jealousy. If you look at the object of the emotion and strip it bare, why do I feel this way? Why do I hate this person? Why am I angry with this person? Why do I feel jealous? These are all sort of outward things, and they do affect the internal. So to deconstruct that can sort of help a lot. And a few more jottings. Marcus also speaks about letting go of things that hold you back, which of course is very true. There's a there's a parable in the Bible where it says something along the lines of if your eye causes you to sin and stops you from reaching the kingdom of heaven, then pluck it out. And that's obviously a metaphor for letting go of things that are holding you back. Um, this book, as you can see, speaks a lot about sort of being good, being a just person, and that if you have that determination and that will and that drive, no one can stop you. And that can also help you in very tough times too. And then finally, the last chapter of this book, Marcus talks about the body, the soul, and the mind. So the body is obviously our senses. We share that with the animals. The soul is, Marcus calls it our impulse. Um, so our instincts. And Marcus says we share that with the wild beasts. And then finally, our mind, which is the judgments. Now, when I read this, I thought that the judgments was what he was going to say was make us that good person. But he says judgments can be had by anyone and are had as well by people who betray their country, just evil people. He sort of goes on a little bit of a list of these sort of people, and he goes, what unites or what sort of is the good person who has, not only must they have all three, but they also have to love and embrace their lot, because if you love your station in life, then there's no hate, there's no resentment, and you can't even sort of be turned against, different things to a point. Sometimes resentment can be powerful, it can sort of turn you away from the right path, so to speak. Um, so essentially, and it's quite interesting, Marcus says that, of course, you need all these three things, but the good person is on top of that, has an acceptance for where they are, obviously changes the things that they can if they want to, but the things they can't change, they try not to stress about. Um, Love where they're at, accept it, and this sort of flows through in their relationships with others as well, and their place in the nature of the whole. So thank you for listening to my analysis today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one. Thank you.